So you're thinking about opening an account and selling on eBay? Maybe you have seen other resellers who are out having a blast, shopping at thrift stores and garage sales, finding things for really low prices and then turning around and making huge profits on them. Before you dive headfirst into selling on eBay, there are some things that you really ought to consider. Hi, my name is Heather and I am an online reseller. I have been selling on eBay for about 18 years now. And today I am going to be sharing with you 10 things that you ought to think about before you jump in and start selling for the first time on eBay. So number one on the list is that eBay requires a lot of time and effort. A lot of people who have never resold online before don't really understand how much work really goes into the process of buying an item and then selling it for a profit. There are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. For example, when you go out and you buy an item at the store, you now have to go home and process the item, which depending on your item could include mending, cleaning, testing. Sometimes you need to remove price tags off of things or peel off stickers, or maybe scrub off marker off of the bottom of shoes. You then need to make a record of the items and record what you've bought and how much you paid for it so that you'll be able to remember later on how much you paid for it. Once the items are all prepped and ready to go, then you'll move on to photographing your items. And then often you have to edit those photographs to get them into pristine condition. Once your photographs are done, then you will list your item. And while you're listing your item, this will also be a time to do some research to find out how to price the item and to find out maybe what the actual item is called. Once you have all the items listed, then you will have to go and put the items into your storage inventory system. And then you do a little bit of waiting until you make that sale. When the item sells, you'll then have to go back and pull it out of your inventory. And then you will come in and weigh it and package it and print out a label. And then you can either take it to the post office or possibly have USPS come and pick it up at your door. Or of course, if you're doing UPS or FedEx, then you can drop it off to one of those locations as well. So all of these steps happen on every single item that you have. And you will be doing this over and over again. There will also be times when you may need to answer questions or process returns or send offers out to likers. And these things all add on a little bit more time as well. So while all these things are not necessarily difficult, they do take some effort and they do take some time, and that time adds up. So you definitely want to make sure that the items that you're buying are worth your time, because there is a lot of time that is going to be put in per item. To be successful on eBay, you need to be listing consistently. Whether that's 10 items or 40 items, it really just depends on what you're aiming for. If this is going to be a full-time income or if this is just kind of a side hustle. But you definitely need to be putting in effort every day in order to see results. Even if you go on vacation, you may still have a sale trickle in here or there, but you're not going to get very good consistent sales every day if you are not consistently listing. It's really fun to go out and to source and to find amazing deals and to get to go shopping, but people often struggle with the coming home and the processing and the listing. So make sure that you're taking that into consideration when you are considering if this is something that you really want to do, because it really does take that work in order to be successful. Item number 2 on my list is that things will take time to sell. I think a lot of new resellers think that it's a fairly simple process. You list your item and then you wait a couple of days and you've got a sale, and now you go and buy something else. But to be realistic, that happens to us sometimes. It's not super common to have things sell within 24 hours or even a week. Most things take months to sell. If you are doing really good research on your items and there's a really good sell-through rate, you will have more success. But the odds are less likely when you're just starting out, because most people starting out haven't figured all of those things out just yet. So you do need to remember that it will take some time. When you are very first starting out, it is exciting to do your first 10 listings and to have them up, and then you're excited just waiting. Okay, it's going to sell, it's going to sell. But sometimes you need to list another 10 and another 10, and you may have listed 50 items before you really start to have anything sell. And I think a lot of people might get a little frustrated with this situation, but eBay is kind of a slow growing machine. You need to keep listing and you need to keep building that inventory. The more that you have listed, the better your opportunities of making sales are. And sometimes things just take a long time to sell on eBay because there is just a lot of competition. From the latest statistic that I could find, there are over 19 million sellers on eBay. That is a lot of competition. Hopefully you'll be able to find items that are more rare and unique and that everyone else is not selling. But you definitely have to keep in mind that there are a lot of listings on there. And so you definitely want yours to stand out and to do all that you can to give your listing the best chance. If you are doing most of the things right on eBay, you're doing good titles, you've got good photographs, you're doing your research and you're finding desirable items and you're pricing them well, most people will have a 1% sell-through rate each day. So what that means is if you have 100 listings, then you are going to be selling about one item a day. And if you have 1,000 listings, then you're going to be selling about 10 items a day. But again, you have to be really careful with this because you're only going to get those numbers if you are doing all of those things that I mentioned well. When you're new, it's really hard to be able to meet all of those things. And so you probably are not going to hit a 1% rate. And it may take some time before you learn all of the processes and what to do in order to get to that point. I think this is one of the biggest reasons that people jump ship too early on eBay. It's because they think that they are going to very quickly make money, that things are going to sell fast, and then they get things listed and they realize that's just not the case. And then they get frustrated and they start questioning, why won't this sell? I'm not a very good reseller, all of these things. And they're like, this is not worth my time. I'm listing all of these items and it's taking me so much time and I'm not seeing the results. And then that's when you start seeing people dumping their inventory on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or selling it off to other resellers because they just get frustrated that it's not going as they thought that it would, but they didn't have realistic expectations when they went into reselling. So if this is something that you want to do, you need to have those realistic expectations and realize that this is something that does take some time. It takes time to build your inventory and to learn the processes, and you are not going to have amazing results day 1 or even day 10. It takes time. So number 3 on my list is to consider that while doing eBay, you are now taking on the responsibility of doing shipping several times during the week. So you need to make sure that you have time to do so. Some of you may have aspirations of doing this as a full-time thing, and of course you probably will have time then. But if you're thinking about doing this as a side hustle, maybe you have a full-time job, maybe you have other responsibilities, this is definitely something to take into consideration because the post office is only open until a certain time, usually 5 or 6 during the week. Or if you have them come and pick it up, you have to have your packages out the door, ready on the porch by the time that they come. And so you will have to fit that in your schedule. And right now in our time and day, people like to have things fast. So although you can do 2 or 3 day handling times on eBay, people really like and prefer 1-day handling. So if something sells on Thursday, they really want it shipped out on Friday. So number 4 on my list is to think about, are you a self-motivated person or are you good with sticking to a schedule? Because these are definitely important things if you are going to be being your own boss. I know all of us talk about, oh, it would be so great to be our own boss. It'd be so great not to have a 9 to 5 job and to have the freedom to do what you want and to not have anybody hovering over you telling you what to do. But guys, this definitely comes with its own challenges because a lot of us are just not self-motivated, and it's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to get up and to get your listings done, to get your shipping out when there's other things that you could be doing because you're at home and you're not at work, you don't have a boss checking in on you. I would definitely recommend, if this is something that you want to do, that you make a schedule and that you try your hardest to stick to that schedule, because that schedule will help to get you out of bed and to help get you motivated and to doing what you need to get done. I have found that it can be especially hard to motivate yourself to get out of bed on those days when things are not selling, and you might start to think, oh, is it worth it? Nothing's gonna sell anyways, like, oh, I listed 3 things yesterday and 2 things the day before, and I haven't seen any sales come in. Is it really gonna make a difference if I list this one? But usually on eBay, it does. If you drop off and you stop listing, then your sales are not going to come back. So you do need to get back on and do that extra listing. The important thing to remember is that people who are successful are the ones who can get themselves out of bed and can push past those negative thought processes and can still get up and get things done that they need to do. Number 5 on my list is that you need to realize that trends and sell-through rates are constantly changing. Today, there might be a big fad, and let's say you're a clothing reseller, and today it might be Lululemon. And everybody is talking about Lululemon, everybody's buying Lululemon, and then 2 months from now, everybody else is buying Lululemon, and the market is just flooded with it. And now all of a sudden, you could get, $40 for a pair of leggings, and now it's down to $20 for a pair of leggings. Or, maybe this Nintendo game is selling super hot. Or, back when the virus started, puzzles were selling really well. But, things shift and change over time. And so you constantly have to be following the market and seeing what you need to adjust and change, because you can't just get on and sell the same thing over and over and over again, because it's just so volatile and it's constantly changing. So you constantly have to be doing your homework and your research. So the 6th thing on my list that I think that you need to take into consideration is, are you a people person? Although it is not super frequent, there are times on eBay where you will have interaction with customers. Maybe someone got something that you sent them and it's not the right size, or maybe, they think that you should have done this or that with the packaging and you didn't. Or maybe they're just asking you questions. In all of these circumstances, you will need to be professional and friendly. I know sometimes it's really hard when people are attacking us that we want to attack back. Like, let's say they're accusing you of sending them something with a huge hole in it. Rather than jumping back and getting all upset, sometimes you've got to take a deep breath and to respond in a mature, professional way. And that can be really hard. Fortunately, a lot of things sell and transactions go down, and you really don't have to interact that much with customers. But if that's something that really is a struggle for you, then reselling might not be for you. Number 7 on my list is, where will you store your inventory? This is definitely something that you want to think about before you start buying items, because they do build up very quickly once you start going out to thrift stores and garage sales, and now all of a sudden you have piles and piles of stuff. So before you even start shopping, it's best to take into consideration, where am I going to put all this stuff when I get it? I know some of us don't have a lot of space. Some people live in apartments, or some people live in small houses and just don't have a lot of space. And eBay can take up a lot of space. There are creative ways to get around that. You can store things in totes under beds. You can store things in totes in closets. You can use shelving units and use boxes and use your vertical space. Some people like to use their garage. There are some drawbacks to using garages, especially if you live in really cold or really hot locations and you don't have a heated or air conditioned garage, sometimes things can get ruined, like elastic in waistbands or socks. Sometimes those things don't do well with heat, or things with wax. And there's also the possibility of things falling off of shelves or out of boxes and landing on the floor, and now you have dirty items. So those are all things that you should take into account when you're thinking about using a garage. And then of course there are some people who don't have any space at all and prefer not to have it in their house, and they will use a storage unit or maybe a shed out back, or somewhere that is not actually in their house. And of course that's always an option too. If you are short on space, I would definitely consider trying to source small items. It might be tempting to see things that are cheap at garage sales and to want to pick them up, but if you are very low on space, you probably should steer away from large things like pots and pans or kitchen appliances or electronics like speakers or VCRs, DVD players, stereos, coats, large toys, large stuffed animals. All of these things will fill up your space really fast. It might be better to look into things that are smaller and more compact, that take up a lot less space and are easier to store, like maybe records or CDs, DVDs, books, clothing that's smaller. There's a lot of toys that are small. You can do games and those stack fairly easily. But yeah, you just definitely want to keep that in mind when you're planning what it is that you are going to source. Number 8 on my list is, how will you manage your inventory system? This is something else that's really good to think about before you start buying items, because it is very easy to buy items and then to list them and have them start building up. And now you've got this bag full of this stuff and this bag full of this stuff. And it's just so much easier to inventory things if you start out at the very beginning instead of having to go back and try to sort through all of it later. I would recommend, if you are new to reselling, that you at least start with a box and maybe call the box letter A or number 1. And then you put however many items you can into that box or that bin, and then you start a second one and you can call that number 2 or the letter B. And you just keep adding as you go. And then you can put these boxes wherever they need to go. And then you can record which box or bin you have it in on the little SKU section that's on eBay, so that when something sells, you can see the SKU and it will say box A and you automatically know where to go. There are so many of us who have started out reselling and think, oh, I'll remember that I put those shoes up on that top shelf, or I'll remember that that dress was hanging in my daughter's closet. And then when that item goes to sell, you're now like, wait, what did I do with it? Did I put it in here? No, maybe I put it in here. And now you are on a scavenger hunt all through your house, searching and searching. And sometimes, even with the best of us, we can't find it at all. And then you have to go back and cancel the transaction and refund the buyer. And that's definitely not something that you want to have happen. So be sure that you are starting out fresh with an inventory system. So number 9 on my list is that you will need to have a spreadsheet, and you will need to record everything that you are doing with your reselling. You will need to write down how much you're paying for items. You'll need to write down when they sell, how much they sold for, how much your eBay fees were, like how much you paid for shipping, how much maybe they paid for shipping, and what your profit on that item was. I like to do this when I am packaging an item. I will write all of these things down as I'm prepping the item for shipping. It is also good to record your items when you buy them, because you're not going to remember 2 months from now how much you paid for that pair of shoes at that garage sale. You're just not going to remember it, especially when you have several items that you need to remember. So I like to go in and open up a spreadsheet, and I like to type in where I went. So let's say that it was June 1st and I went to garage sales for the day. So I'll type in June 1st and garage sales, and then I will list all of the items that I bought. And then next to it, I will list how much I paid for each item. And it's really good if you go in and do this within, 2 or 3 days at least, because like I said, you will forget. And, when that item eventually sells, it's really hard to come up with a price when you have no idea what you paid for it. That, and I like to go back and see, oh, I went to garage sales this day and those items all sold within, 2 weeks or 4 months. That's awesome. Or I can go and be like, oh, well, this day I went to Goodwill and none of those things have sold. And it's nice to have that stuff documented so that you can go back and reflect on things. Okay, last but not least is number 10 on our list, and that is to review and understand the eBay fees. eBay fees can be a little overwhelming and a little confusing because they are lengthy. There's fees for when you list, there's things for when things sell, there's promoted listings, there are upgrades that you can put on your listings, there's store subscription fees, there's international listing fees. The list goes on and on. And so it's important that you study this out before you list so that you're not blindsided by any of these, and so that you can make the best choice so that you are paying eBay the least amount that you really have to. I hope that this gave you guys some good things to think about, and that these will help you to better be informed when you're making the choice on whether or not you really do want to sell on eBay. eBay can be really rewarding, and it does have its perks. I know there are a lot of people who are making really good incomes doing eBay. I personally have never done it full-time, so I've never had it as a full-time job and had the full-time income that comes with doing so. But I have earned a lot of money on eBay. I have been able to help pay off debt and pay off student loans and paid for a lot of extra things for our family. We've taken a lot of trips to Europe. We just bought season passes to the Disney parks. And all of these things I was able to do working from home with my kids still in tow. So, it definitely has its perks, and it can be good even if you're not doing this as a full-time thing. You can still make some good money. If you are interested in more tips and how-to videos for those of you who are just starting out on eBay, I will be starting a series soon on eBay for beginners, going over all of the basic processes, how to ship, how to make an account, how to list an item. I will be doing videos over all of these things. So if that's interesting to you and you are still interested in doing eBay, then please be sure to subscribe to my channel. And if you click that little bell notification, it will let you know when these videos get released. And until then, be sure to check out this video where I go over whether it's best to source pre-owned or whether it's best to sell new with tag items from retail stores.